Okay, so we're going to talk again about CSS and some of the structures that we have in there. And so we left off last time and we were talking about kind of how CSS works, and we set up a style sheet here, style1.css, and then we changed something in the style sheet where we had a paragraph. So we made this change to our paragraphs, and we changed them blue and made them small. Let's make them big again so we can see them a little bit. But there's going to be times where maybe we don't want to have every paragraph changed, and so we want different paragraphs to look differently. And so what the terminology within CSS is we can have classes and we can have IDs. And so within our tags, we can specify a class. So I'm going to say this class equals, and this is an intro. So I'm going to say this is intro paragraph, and I should spell it right. Okay, so that would be an intro, and then I'm going to go ahead and save that. And then in my CSS piece, okay, instead of this being a paragraph tag, I'm going to say .intro, and that will only grab that first one. So anything in there will be blue, and let's make it really big. Let's make it 300%. Okay, so .intro stands for the class that I created there as we go forward. So let me save that. If we open it up in the browser, let's do that correctly. Here's my browser, and then refresh it. You can see that that first paragraph is the only thing that's affected. This is a link, and then this is my new paragraph, right? So this is not affected by that piece because it's not in the same class. Now if I change it, all right, so if I go in here, I'm going to get rid of this link because it's going to be confusing to us. Right? I can specify it as the same class. So I could say class equals intro, and it would be under this same umbrella. And then if I add a third paragraph, and I can say this is not in the intro class, and then close that tag and save that and reload it, you can see that paragraph is there and it has the same, and this is not an intro class. All right, that's not grabbed by it. I could change this class to be second, whatever I wanted, and now it's not going to have any CSS unless I change it here. So I could make another class, and I could say .second brace brace, and inside of there I'd say color colon green semicolon. Save that. Make sure you save this, and then when we load that up, right, we can see that this intro is big, this is green, this is not affected. Okay, but let's say that we have something, let's say we go back in here, and I'm going to actually just change this text to be a little bit more appropriate. I'm going to say intro paragraph. I can't spell it. All right, intro paragraph. Now I have another option. I can say the ID of a class is intro. Now ID is different than a class, and conventionally an ID is just used once, and you'll use it down the road with our JavaScript to get an element by ID, and we can manipulate pieces that way. But an ID is very similar to a class, but a class would have the ability to be in multiple pieces. That would be our convention. An intro or an ID, sorry, should just be used once. So we change that there and save it. And then here it's the same starting point, except it's a pound sign or hashtag. So this says this is an ID. Okay, let's make the color red, and we'll make this 300%, and that's fine. This class of second is going to be green, and then we still have another paragraph tag that's not being affected. So let's save that. Let's refresh it. We can see here's my intro paragraph that's red, this is still green. Now if I wanted to, right, let's say that I go back to my index and I ID this one as well. So I say ID equals intro, and let's see if that's going to work, right, and refresh it, and it does. So the ID can be used in multiple tags. However, again, we usually only want to use it one time if it's something like a header or something that we would use in there. If it's going to be used multiple times, what we really want to do is to specify a class. So with this paragraph would be, if we wanted to do it as a class, equals second. Alright, save that, and now when I refresh it, it's the same type of paragraph as that. All right, so let's think for a second here. What happens if we do both? Okay, so I have a paragraph, right? And I have a paragraph with a class in it of second. What happens if I go back and I add the first thing that we had in here, which is add a paragraph tag? So P, right? And I'm going to say the color is going to be blue. All right, and then font size is going to be, let's make it small, 25% of the standard, and put the semicolon at the end. So we have a couple options, right? Is this paragraph tag going to override everything in the class, or is it going to let it alone? So let's save that. Let's again go back to our browser, and we can see that my paragraph tag, right, has overridden my class. All right. Okay, so I can see that paragraph tag is changed these two, but it didn't touch this thing with our ID. This is still large. So let's investigate for a second. If I, instead of making this a class, right, I make the ID equal to second, all right, and then I have to go into my stylesheet.css and change that, which was a dot, into a pound sign. That's an ID. And let's add it. Let's make it a little bit bigger so we can actually see a difference. We'll make the color green. All right, so now when I save this, did I save index? I did not. Alright, so now it's an ID, it's not a class. I save it, and I open up in the browser and refresh it. I get no change. Okay, that wasn't what I was expecting, so let's go back and see that our syntax is correct, because the browser will often handle syntax for us. So if we look at this, we can see I have an extra dot in front of that. So it didn't recognize that as either a class or an ID. Let's go ahead and save that, go back and refresh. There we go. All right, so my classes are lost. My paragraph gets overridden by that value. I'm sorry, my ID overrides that value as I go forward. So in kind of wrapping up, right, you want to use classes and IDs within your HTML tags to specify what they should be, what level, what they should look like, and then within your style sheet, you're going to have a bunch of pieces with IDs and intros. You can also pull any element from a tag, a paragraph, or a div, or an anchor tag, but you got to be a little bit careful of kind of how those pieces go together.